Today's topic, celebrity plastic surgeries. Who got it right? Who got it wrong? So please continue listening to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Welcome to a new episode. We want to thank the listeners for their reviews and comments. Now, first of all, this is somebody who wrote specifically, I'm a good listener and not too easy on giving praise, but listening in here, I feel informed and love the tone with intelligent styling. Thank you for taking the time to speak and not only to perform. I think that's going to go to you,
That's
Roddy.
lovely. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I actually didn't even know there was a section where people were writing comments. Thank God they're all positive. I would have been devastated if they were negative. We really appreciate that.
You're getting like 5-star reviews, my man.
All right, I love it.
Yeah, Bible-loving Amanda. You got to love that. So that means she's straight up. This podcast is informative and detailed. It gives you a great starting point and tips if you're interested in plastic surgery. Dr. Raban is honest and real and doesn't hold back. That's pretty legit. So
I like that. That's very good. You know, it makes you, when you do something like this, it's nice to see that people receive you the way you had intended. So that's really lovely.
I think that for the future, though, if she's listening, we could maybe cut on the curse words. He gets really rolling.
Don't get me started.
Okay, well, we have a guest. She's going to get you started. This is my friend and our guest who's in to chime in on celebrity plastic surgery, Hollywood insider and TV presenter, Marissa Montgomery.
Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Of course. So I think one of the things that's really, without a doubt, unarguably, probably one of the hottest topics regarding plastic surgery is celebrity plastic surgery, because it like kind of morphs the two things you love. You love celebrities and people love plastic surgery and they love to see what celebrities did, whether that's because you see them as icons or whether you dislike them or whatever the case may be. So it's not like this is new. I mean, since the beginning of time, if you were a celebrity, Cleopatra was a celebrity, right? Let's be honest. So anyone who's a celebrity or in the public eye has a higher threshold or need to look good. Everybody wants to look good, but they're going to want and need to look good more than other people. And so recently we've had a few celebrities, because historically you just deny it, right? Like, oh, you look great. Have you done anything?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest issues. I think people have been denying it for years. But now people are kind of outspoken about it. It's interesting. It's a different thing. And there's this whole niche of like celebrity plastic surgeons. Like people are proud. I find it's a really interesting time.
It's changed a lot. And I think a lot of that, and we'll get to that, is why is that the case? So we have a few people like, who are the people that recently came out? One was
Sharon Osbourne.
Sharon Osbourne.
She just announced the fourth facelift.
Yeah, Sharon Osbourne. What was he? And there was another one that had said that. Well, we all know, like for example, Cardi B said that she had to stop her tour due to like having gone back to her tour too early, etc. So I think the key today is we're gonna talk about those who got it right, meaning that the plastic surgery they had done worked, and in terms of making them better. Those that it didn't work and they look worse. And then I think there'll be a handful of people where we'll have what we refer to as honorable mention, where like it got better, maybe some of it got worse, and we can kind of tackle it. And I'll give you my input, you can give me yours, and we'll kind of figure it out from there.
Can I suggest a subset?
Sure.
I think, as she was saying, there's almost a status to it now where the younger people and the millennials, they're kind of bragging about it and they're getting it younger and younger. And there's almost a status to like, I'm already, wealthy enough to start spending tons of money on my face. And there was a generation where it was like taboo, but I think the younger generation, it's status now.
So we'll get into all those things. So I think what we will do is we're going to get started with those that got it wrong. Okay. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, we just all love to watch train wrecks, and I don't know, there's something about like celebrities are so perfect or they behave so perfect, and it's kind of like, oh, well, you're not so perfect. So
well, sure, it's like NASCAR. Everybody watches for the wheel to fly off. So let's talk about whose wheels flew off.
Okay, so who's our first person we're going to go to? We're going to pull, for those of you who's sitting at home, we're going to mention the person. You pull them up on your computer. We're looking at some images, and we're going to kind of start dissecting this together. So go ahead. Who's going to be our first victim?
Okay, so who got it wrong? We have on the list, and this was agreed upon by the group, Lil' Kim is first. I'm not sure why we think she got it wrong. What did she get wrong, Dr.
Well, we got to pull up her pictures. So, and you said you're not sure
what she got wrong.
Okay, have you looked at her photo? I'm just going to ask you. I'm going to tell you what she did wrong. But do you think take a look at that? Everyone look at that.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're comparing her to old Lil' Kim, she doesn't look like Lil' Kim.
No, we have two issues, and let's be very distinct.
Okay, be distinct.
One is everyone who has plastic surgery, there's this notion that I'm going to do plastic surgery, I'm going to look just like myself but better. That's nonsense. You're getting plastic surgery to look different. Your goal is that you look different and you look better.
But you still look like you.
Well, that's arguable because that's a relative term. But like the concept is, I had plastic surgery and I'm unarguably to the general, everyone's got their taste. But generally speaking, I look better. That's our litmus test, okay? You looking different, everyone looks different, okay? So when I look at her, you guys have looked at her?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? Do you think she looks better?
I feel like it's the Michael Jackson effect.
Okay,
It's
so
kind
the
of
Michael
scary.
Jackson effect is a great term. And to me, when I look at her, I think most lay people, if we were walking in the street and we showed her picture, I think most people are like, wow, she looks different, but she doesn't look better. And so what makes her not look better? So let's go through it one by one.
Okay.
One of the issues, and this is great segues, is ethnic plastic surgery. So because we're in a world now where there's ethnic celebrities, we have Indian celebrities, we have Asian celebrities, we have a lot of African American celebrities, etc., which we didn't have before. Now they've
Feel
always
the pressure.
listen. Plastic surgery, ethnic plastic surgery has always been towards making yourself more Caucasian. That's good. That's wrong. That's right. It is. Eyelids, making Caucasian eyelids. Noses, making them more refined. Jawlines, etc. So what Little Kim has done is, as she said, the Michael Jackson effect is, let's go through things one by one. Number one, her nose is half the size it was before.
Agreed.
So when you have a beautiful full face like Lil' Kim does, and it's large and big cheeks because she's got a round African-American face, and then you go and get your nose made in half, in and of itself, you could look at her nose and be like, well, it doesn't look that, it's skeletonized. And Michael Jackson did the same thing. So you can't tell me that right there, her nose doesn't look ridiculous.
It doesn't look like her old nose.
To me, it looks, what, do you think it looks good?
There's been so much done that it's like the cheek filler, the chin filler, the eyes. There's
Okay.
so much to take in that it's almost like a visual overload. I can't even process it.
I think,
I can't even.
well, I think to me, her nose is overdone.
I agree.
Because listen, at the end of the day, it's a matter of discussion, right? Everyone's about taste. Like you taste this and I taste this and she tastes this and we all decide, does this taste good or not? Maybe we have different taste buds. But I think that her nose is overdone. The nostrils are taken in. The middle of it is skeletonized. Her tip is tiny. Those are all signs that your nose has been done, period.
Of course. But what I'm saying is when I look at that picture, the after isn't ugly. I
To
mean,
me,
there's
it's ugly.
people that
She looks like a cat. Her eyes are tiny. Her cheeks are ginormous. Her nose looks like a little beady little nose. I just don't think that in this, and we're looking at this photo, but this effect, which represents a lot of people, this sort of cat-like effect. People always, the Catwoman.
No, you're
why,
right.
Why
The
do people
Bride
start
of
looking like a
Wildenstein
cat?
look.
What happens is, it's very classic. Your nose keeps getting smaller. Nobody goes and gets a plastic surgery and their nose gets bigger. The question is how small. Your cheeks keep getting bigger. So you can't argue that her cheeks are not
So is
giant.
is that filler
Yes.
and an eye lift? Or
No,
what's
it's-
the eye thing?
The eye thing is
What's the eye thing?
well, you mean why do her eyes look so tiny?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, she's kind of semi-squinting.
Okay.
But what the issue is that her cheeks are getting larger and larger and larger, and they're starting to encroach on her lower eyelid. So if you look at a cat, you look at them really closely, you're going to notice they have small eyes and ginormous cheekbones. And the distance between their eyelid and their cheek point is really close. So a human, if you look at my eyelash and the highest point of my cheek, there's like maybe 2 centimeters. As my cheek starts to get bigger and my cheek gets closer towards my lower eyelid, the space gets less and you start looking a little cat-like. Your eyes start getting reduced in
So it's like
inside.
face real estate. Like she had to give up some beachfront for the cheeks. Like there's only so much space.
Well, okay, well, all right, fine. So we both think, let's move on to another celebrity.
Okay. Now, I think we can all agree that, when you say Kim Kardashian got it right, got it wrong, that's really a matter of opinion because her brand is that big Armenian tuchus.
Well-
I mean, that's the brand. The brand is the tuchus.
So let's start with what she had done, right? Let's start with what she had done, and then let's talk about whether or not
Okay.
we think it's
I've
good or
never
bad.
seen it in person. Have you ever seen her butt in person?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk to somebody who's actually seen the tuchus.
I also thought she was so beautiful in person. Like her skin was beautiful. I was taken back by how beautiful she was. But obviously, I couldn't stop staring at her bottom. But
Is it out of
But,
proportion in
I-
person?
it is very big. But then women come in all shapes and sizes.
But that was she didn't come that way though.
I've never met her before. So it's very hard to
So
gauge.
let's first start out and let's describe. First and foremost, I'm a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
So I make a living.
Dr.
and I-
Roddy Rabon, board certified.
I make a living by making transformations occur. So the argument is not whether or not one should or shouldn't. And the argument is not whether or not this is a bad idea or a good idea. The argument is we're just discussing what was done.
Right.
And whether or not we as a group, and none of us are, no, there's no such thing as an expert, because at the end of the day, even me as a plastic surgeon, it's just my opinion.
What did she do, though? How do you get it like that?
Whether or not we think that the overall effect of it was a positive one. So what did she have done? She had her nose done, which I think looks excellent. Over the years, she's had cheek filler increasingly, which I think at some point looked really good. And I think as time went on, aged her. That's a matter of discussion.
She does look older.
Like more mature, and I don't know if that was her look or not, but as you get fuller cheeked, she looked kind of older. And I think overall, I think it's unarguable that her face in general is beautiful and it looks great. The argument that's been had is regarding this whole idea of being snatched and this whole big booty concepts and fat transfer to the butt, and then Mickey, what's her called? Cardi B and all these people. So there's no question that having a larger, being curvy is now fully accepted and desired. We went from the 90s of being skinny and rail thin to now being curvy is the new desired look. So I don't think that's the issue, but I do know that's not her butt.
But my question is, because I know there's butt implants, like Coco T has butt implants. But how do you get a butt like that? I'm curious.
Listen, I obviously don't know, right? Because I didn't do her surgery. But my suspicion, just watching the evolution of her photos, is I think what she probably did was that she probably did butt implants at some juncture, which took her from her regular normal curviness, which is quite decent, to like bigger butt, okay? And then when fat transfer became very popular, so-called Brazilian butt lift, she then took more fat from around her waist and then added it on top of around where the implant was. To the point now that if you look at her photos on the beach, you can tell that again, matter of taste, but you have skinny little legs and then all of a sudden you got a big, really large butt.
Yeah.
So any rate, I think that the issue really is at hand is whether or not you like it or not. It's also the idea that now this became the
trend.
norm.
Yeah.
That's the part that concerns me.
So the part that concerns me is like, I don't know if it was a few days ago, yet another woman died in Miami. This is like the 24th or some crazy number of women dying. And they're dying from what? Fat transfer to the butt. Why? Because they're getting fat emboli. Why? Because they're going to these clinics desperately wanting this look. Their doctors or whatever they are, dentists or whoever these people are injecting fat, not skillfully, not appropriately, and they're dying. So
what's a fat emboli? Maybe for the laymen, people that don't know, how does that?
Okay, so you know what a blood clot to the lungs is, right?
Correct.
So everybody, you get on an airplane, you wake up, you get out of the plane, you walk and you drop dead. It's because blood from your legs went straight from your leg and lodged into your lungs or your heart and you died.
Okay.
Now the same phenomenon occurs, except the thing that goes from to your heart and lungs is a big chunk of fat.
Well, you got injected wrong?
So you got injected.
Wow.
And when they're injecting all that fat in your butt, it goes too deep into the muscle, and where there's a lot of vessels, big veins, like channels, and then the fat goes straight into one of those and goes whoop, and straight to the lungs and the heart, and you drop dead and die. It's not rare. It's not uncommon. It's happening everywhere, to the point that there's an advisory board. Certain countries have banned it. I mean, it's a big issue in plastic surgery. The issue is what's driving this phenomenon? Why are women, some of which have great looking bodies, young, 23, 24, moms of 3 or 4, so it's this desire to look a certain way.
See, I do blame Kim Kardashian and sort of this, for lack of a better term, it's like the baller lifestyle. Everybody wants to look like a video vixen. Like some people just don't have big butts. I mean, it's because butts are fat. So it's unnatural to think you're going to have a thin rest of the body and a giant butt. Like, I used to have when I was young, they used to call me culona because I had a dangerous minority butt. And then I lost weight and now I look like a middle-aged white woman with good credit. Like I lost.
Yeah, I agree. So like
I lost my butt. It's fat.
I think the idea is it's no different than when we wanted bigger boobs in the 90s, right?
Right.
There was a whole trend, Pamela Anderson. So the trends are never going to go away. In 10 years, we'll be sitting here, God willing, and having a conversation about a different trend. The issue at hand is not should you or shouldn't you. The issue is to what degree and at what cost. And the next issue is who are the influencers that are driving these forces and how authentic are they about getting this information out there. So, for example, you're in the world of influencing, and what does that mean, and what responsibility do you have?
Yeah.
And like Kim was on the Met Gala carpet, right? You saw that, right? Mm-hmm. And I commented about that. That's not even her. what she looks like, which is already not the way she looks, that was even 10 times more exaggerated because she wore a corset and then they put these pads on your thighs to make you look, and that's fine.
And also, whoever's making the dress for her, I can't remember who dressed her, they know that is going to make front page and sell. The more you accentuate,
course.
it's...
So the question is, if you come out and say, hey, I just think this looks so cool. I put on this corset and I put on these pads. And so a young girl who's like 20 years old.
They're 16 years old. Her Instagram follows. It's so scary. What is normal now? It's like an unachievable beauty.
Correct.
Like the amount of money and not just plastic surgery, but training and everything else to just look a certain way. It is unachievable for young girls who are 16 years old.
You hit it. So here is the underbelly of the podcast. So all the dialogue is interesting. It's fun. It's interesting banter, but that gets to the core. The core is when I'm sitting in my office and I have a 18-year-old girl come in and ask for a facelift, or a 20-year-old girl coming in for asking for fat transfer to her butt, or all these things. That's the issue. The issue isn't plastic surgery. The issue is the manipulation of what you're trying to achieve. If what you're trying to achieve is reasonable and within reach, okay, so fine.
When I grew up, I wanted to look like Rachel from Friends. I went to the hairdressers, I got the Rachel haircut, that was it. And you would get like a handbag or a t-shirt to look like that celebrity. But that was because, you would get like your monthly magazines or you would read it. Now, every day, the first thing these kids, they wake up and they're bombarded through Instagram, social media. And it is not just that. It is a very unrealistic kind of...
So it's unrealistic because of why? I, for the first time, finally got to see Facetune. I saw it. My niece, who's 16, who is literally the epitome of this whole thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
She took a picture of my wife, who's a supermodel in my opinion, and took her waist in and brought her hips out. And it was like insane how quickly, how like perfect it looked. And I was like, this is it. So it's one thing to have a picture of Rachel, who's a real human being walking around with a certain haircut. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying Rachel looks really pretty. She's my celebrity crush. I want to look like her.
And that was the trend. It was just the hair, but now it's so different. I don't know if plastic surgery is just so much more visible, but it's the look that people are...
No, it's what it is Rachel has a haircut. You go get that haircut. Now you're seeing pictures of people who don't look like the picture and you're trying to get that thing.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if people like, I don't know, you can't get something that doesn't exist. And the problem is no one looks the way that the images so it doesn't matter that we went from magazines to Instagram. It's just another source of images. Yes, a magazine came out once a month, images come out once a second. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that the image that you're looking at is fake.
But that heightens the competition, speed of exposure, speed of visibility. Once a month kind of slowed it down.
Oh, for sure.
The speed raises the pressure to change it faster.
So let's look at another celebrity. So the next celebrity we're looking at is, I don't know how many people know Mickey
Of course,
Rourke.
he's in the Iron Man movies.
Okay, so Mickey Rourke represents another subpopulation. It's a little more mature and men. Because there's this, like, in a weird way, and this is going to be, it's not sexist, women, even if they look weird, still kind of look pretty-ish. Because our expectation for women, they're very doll-like or very sort of refined, and there's arguments, like you were arguing about whether or not you thought Lil' Kim looked good, right?
Well, she's not ugly.
No, understandable, but the point being is, even though she doesn't look really like herself and maybe a little doll-like, it's still arguable if she's pretty. Men don't have that. Men are either like, they're handsome and they're rugged, or they look feminized and weird.
I was just going to say, though, a male facelift is almost always feminizing.
So Mickey Rourke.
Paul McCartney looked like somebody's grandma.
So what did he do? I want you to look and you tell me what you think.
What didn't he do? When I saw the movie The Wrestler, I said that his face was his co-star. Like it was Mickey Rourke starring and his face was like supporting.
So what do you think?
What do I think he's had done?
First of all, let's start with the basic. Do you think whatever he's done, which clearly isn't just age, does he look better, in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it is very hard to age gracefully. And
well, we're going to get to that because that's our topic of okay, so we have all these tools. What do we do with them? But just in your opinion, because people are out there listening because they want, like people look at him on the TV and they're like, what the hell did he do? Why?
He's almost unrecognizable.
So we've agreed that we're not here to bash Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
We're not at all. We're just here to talk about what we see and give our thoughts. Because the goal is to prevent other people from doing things and have this dialogue now. So we all agree that it doesn't necessarily look significantly better. And we're going to talk about at the next segment all the people that did do plastic surgery and look great. What do you think he did? What is it that looks different about him? What looks weird to you?
I think the mouth actually looks really strange.
Funny you should say that because he had a smirk that was quite sexy, and those poofed up lips make him look like he took a wrong turn on his way to a bar mitzvah. Like he looks very matronly. He looks
So the
very
lips,
matronly
what else?
Miami.
The lips. I don't know, the cheek, something here.
He looks like his forehead doesn't look significantly bigger. It just looks smooth and weird, like you could show a movie on it.
Yeah. What is that look when I always see these girls in LA and their forehead is just so shiny?
Okay, so that's a Botox aftermath. So we'll talk
Okay.
about that in a second. But
I'm
so-
English. We don't do that much in England.
so here we go. So as far as what I see is, okay, so what did he have done? Almost always facial rejuvenation. So you become 58, 62, 70. We all classically age the same in different amounts. Everyone's brows start sagging. Some more, some less. Everyone starts to generate a little bit of extra skin in their upper eyelids. Almost everyone starts to have some fat bulging under their eyes. And almost everyone starts to develop jowls, neck skin, and marionettes. That's how we all age. Some more, some less, some more in their cheeks, some less, depending on your structure. So when you do facial rejuvenation, you usually do a combination of all those things. You get a brow lift. So he's had a brow lift. That's why his eyebrows, one of the quintessential elements about most handsome men is that they have straight eyebrows. You never see a man with an arching eyebrow.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So when they age, their eyebrows drop faster than a woman whose brows are arching. So when you go do a brow lift, you run the risk of overly arching a brow, and that's number one issue. So you see his brows are up high.
Yeah.
Look at his brow before.
So when
down
you're doing
low.
a brow lift, are you literally like taking the skin and
You
like
literally do a facelift of the brow. You cut and lift the brow
so you're
up.
cutting on the hairline.
Usually
and
the
then you're
hairline,
pulling it back.
right? And so so that's issue number one. So that's the fastest way to feminize someone. The second thing is men have much less eyelid show. So if you look at an average female, where they put on what is the thing you put up here?
Eyeshadow.
Eyeshadow. You have a lot of eyeshadow space. Look at my eyeshadow space. Not that much.
No.
So when you do a eyelid surgery, forget about the brow now, eyelid surgery, you end up opening the eyes up excessively. Look at how much space he has underneath in his upper eyelid. That's the Kenny Roger-ish effect, right?
Yep.
The next thing you do is you want to lift up the cheek and mid-face to clear up the neck. And what happens is if you pull too tight, which is just classically what people do in error of any facelift, man, woman, doesn't matter, is you get that swoop look where the corner of the mouth gets pulled, any dimple or animation of the cheek gets blunted, and the side of the face gets flat. And that's not man or woman. That's just like, what does this look like if I'm pulling here? So when you combine those things, it all looks weird. So the reason why men, in my opinion, look weirder than women and why plastic surgery of men is more tricky than women is your error rate is smaller than in women.
Why would he get filler in his lips though?
Because what happens is that a man's lip, like a woman's lip, starts to disappear. All aging, you brought up a good point. Lips also are part of the rejuvenation, but they're so subtle that you just need to give them a tiny amount of volume to be back to normal. A woman can have large lips and arguably it could be attractive, even if they look like a duck. Like it's not my taste, but she's probably still considered in the realm of attractive. Men, zero error rate. So that's why these guys that get older, they have the pressure of looking young and whatever. They suddenly go from being like, because there's a sort of a vintage, rugged look to a man that looks older, but
Absolutely.
So at any rate, I think that was an interesting transition. So who's next?
Well, for males, let's stay on it and go Wayne Newton. We've got him next.
I don't even know what Wayne Newton looks like. He's probably gonna.
He looks like he's in front of a tobacco store.
I think he's
You
gonna
remember
look. Does he? I think he's probably gonna look like Mickey Rourke if we look. Like,
No, oh gosh, no. He's way more closer to Kenny Rogers. Like there's a smooth weirdness to him. He looks like he's carved out of wood. Like it's a very unusual. Arguably, he looks worse than Mickey Rourke, and that's really going out on a limb.
Okay, yeah. So here is the photo. Okay, so I mean, it's everything I just mentioned.
Right. Times
to
one.
to a greater extent, right? Which is you can look at him. So his eyes, their eyes become beady, meaning why does their eyes look so small? It's because they do a lower eyelid surgery. And when they do a lower eyelid surgery, they bring it together so that the eye space becomes smaller. So you get beady little eyes.
Those are very beady.
You understand? And when you have a huge face like that and your eyes are tiny, you don't look good.
He looks like a gingerbread man. He looks like he's got little raisin eyes.
So basically it's the same concept, right? Let's go over this again because this is all about.
But he was never a handsome man. Our next person, Priscilla Presley, is heartbreaking because Priscilla Presley was arguably, I mean, look, Elvis married her and she continued to be beautiful, like through Naked Gun. And even now, it's not that she's not beautiful. I'm not here to bash Priscilla Presley, but what she's done to herself it's not on the Kim Novak level. I mean, I don't know if you remember after the last award show season, pretty much the talk wasn't who won the award. It was, did you see Kim Novak's face?
Okay, so Priscilla Presley, her biggest downfall, which is that this is another topic. So we have, what can you do to a face?
What
can
you
pull
do?
it, you can fill it. Let's be honest. Those are the two things you can do. If you really distill it down to like nuts and bolts, you can pull it or fill it.
So it's stretch or plump.
So it's either removing too much or filling too much. So the things we described on, for example, Mickey Rourke was too much being removed, too much being pulled, being too much being done. With women nowadays, all of a sudden in the world of filler and sort of non-surgical fat and filler, which is a great tool. Salt is not a problem. The problem is putting way too much salt. These people, and she's one of them, Priscilla, is that they've just got that full face syndrome. They've just filled their face with so much filler and or fat. And so what happens is now it is another syndrome.
That looks like a full baby diaper.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it
she
looks
looks-
just white and lumpy.
So what happens is, and the reason she was beautiful before is she has a gorgeous facial structure,
Gorgeous.
great bone structure. And what happened, and this is what happens to a lot of people, is you start to age naturally, right? Somewhere around 50-ish, some earlier,
yourself.
some later.
Watch yourself, Roddy.
You start noticing some loose skin, right? Mm-hmm. And the first trigger is, oh my God, what is this loose skin in my neck and around my lips?
What are you
the
talking
marionettes.
about?
Yeah, you look great. Too bad the viewers can't see you as you pull your face. So what do you do? So the question is what you do. You have three options. Are you ready? Option one. Say, well, F it. This is what I look like. I look great and age so-called gracefully.
I think that's Helen Mirren. I think Helen Mirren gave us the
Awesome.
F it. She looks amazing.
Awesome. If that's your choice, awesome. Next thing is, oh my God, look at this loose skin around my face. Holy crap. I got to go see someone. And you go see someone. They said, listen, you need some kind of facelift or mini lift or whatever, which is surgery and cutting, right?
Okay.
And then we've discussed that can be done right or can be done excessive. Or the third and new option is, oh my God, there's no way I'm having no facelift. Hell no. I'm just going to have something minimally invasive done, which is what? Filler, fat, filler, fat. And what it does is in a small amount, it buys you time. You have this loose skin and you go in and you go to your favorite spa and they fill you with some Restylane or Juvederm. And you walk out going, that looks pretty goddamn good because the extra skin has been filled up. Then 3-6 months goes by and you're like, oh shit, it's starting again. And you go back and what do? You feel some more. And you feel some more and you feel some more. And then before you know it, you have this syndrome. You look like a koi. A koi is all this jaw, your whole jaw area is super wide and filled and bizarre looking. And this is her. And so people don't walk in and get 18 syringes. People walk in and get 1, then 2, and then they get hooked because they've already gone down that route. Do you think her face is this wide and this plump and this full over one session? It's this, I got to feel a little bit more. And who's responsible?
Well,
Who's responsible for her face?
her or the doctor?
100% it's a doctor. I've said this 1,000 times.
Really?
100% it's her doctor. If a child walks in and says, Mommy, I'm hungry. Give me 5 cookies. Do you blame the child for wanting 5 cookies? Do you blame a celebrity or a woman or a man who wants to look better? You blame the person who gave the kid. Child obesity is a parent's problem. No child walks up to a vending machine, pulls out their credit card and buys food that's shitty. The parent fed them, and the person who did this to her is the spa or the doctor or the greedy, grimy people who want to make money because she's a celebrity and comes in. So nobody becomes like this without an assailant.
So how do people age gracefully then? You're saying there's two ways. You either cut or you do the injectables. Is there a happy balance?
Of course.
That you can
So
do
the
it?
answer is, okay, everyone's listening saying, okay, so basically I'm listening to this plastic surgery podcast and you're basically telling me the answer is don't touch yourself.
Yeah.
Not at all. And we're going to do in the second segment, we're going to talk about people who got it right. You only notice the people who look like crap at the party. I call this selection bias. What is selection bias? So this notion that I went to this party last night and you cannot believe how crazy people look. Oh my God, honey, everyone looks like a freak. So I went to a party and there was 100 people at that party and there were 6 women or men, doesn't matter, that looked like psychos. So you go home and you're like, the answer is, oh my God, plastic surgery has to look that way. So that's not true. Out of 100 people, 30 people had plastic surgery. 5 of them look like
Probably
freaks.
more.
So the answer is that you only recognize the ones that look bad. You don't recognize the one that looks good. So in your calculations, you say 5 out of 5 people who had plastic surgery look bad. When the reality, it's 5 out of 50 because you don't know the other 45. So in our next segment, I'm going to tell you by looking at people who did it right, how to do it in a way that is not, you don't have to be black or white. How's that?
I
Sounds
think that's a
good.
great segment. You going to
Okay.
stick around, Marissa?
Yeah.
She has
Good.
no
I
choice. We
wanna
got a
know.
clot and we got
That's
it trapped
it.
in
We're
here.
keeping her.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Please keep listening. Our next segment is going to be Who Got It Right with Celebrity Plastic Surgery. We're back on Plastic Surgery Uncensored. And in this segment, we're going to talk about celebrity plastic surgery with our guest, Marissa Montgomery, who is a Hollywood insider and I like to say red carpet presenter. Is that a good way
That
of?
sounds just about right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's you. That's who you are. And we're going to talk about people that got it right this time. Dr. Raban wants to start at the top with Cher.
Okay, so listen. So again, who got it right, who got it wrong? It's a matter of personal taste, right? Some people may argue that some of the people we spoke about in the last segment look fantastic. I'm not here to bash anybody. And some people may think some of the people we're mentioning now are going to be like, oh, she looks terrible. But I think we're talking about for most people. Most people would say that overall, Cher looks pretty damn good.
She's in her
She's
70s.
73, I think.
70.
Yeah, she's 73. And for 73, and there's unarguable that she's had plastic surgery, she looks pretty good. So what, and your question was right on the money, because you have that sentiment that most people do, which is, I don't want to age gracefully because I don't know necessarily why. At the same time, I don't want to look freakish. So what the hell do I do? And that's the purpose of our dialogue.
Yeah, is there a happy medium
Of
somewhere?
course there is. Of course, and Cher represents that, and Jane Fonda, and
Let's
we'll go
get
through
a
this.
picture of Cher. I
Here
can't
you
see
go.
her.
Let's. This is a good one. I think it's pretty reasonable. I don't think
Yeah.
right. You looking at that. So tell me, when you look at Cher at 73, what do
She
you
looks
think?
fantastic.
Okay, what to you makes her look fantastic? Because fantastic is general. So you're a critical red carpet. You see, describe her now look.
Well, I just love Cher as a person. So maybe listen, I think
Just look at her features.
Whatever she did to her nose, it's a strong nose and she still owns it. And I like, it's true to who she is. I mean, obviously you can see she's had a lot of things done, her lips, her nose, her.
But the key to it is, at the end of the day, what you're asking is, what differentiates that from the last one we saw, a Mickey Rourke or someone? What differentiates
the
it?
subtle nuances.
That's exactly
yeah.
it. It's the degree, the extent in which you do things. I've said this thousands and thousands of times. This is my analogy. The issue is not plastic surgery, as is not the issue salt. When you are a world-renowned chef and you're making some of the most exquisite food in the world, you use salt, but you use it in the right amount. If you were a novice chef and you use the same recipe and just use just a little too much salt in that recipe than it calls for, that food tastes like shit. So what is it? Is it that salt is bad? We should remove it? Some of the best cake in the world has salt in it. It's not the salt, it's the chef. It's not that you shouldn't have your nose done. You shouldn't have a facelift. Don't take eyelid skin out. It's to what extent? And that is why I keep repeatedly saying, find the best chef.
Yeah. We'll just fine tune what is already there.
Correct. So why does Cher look great? So let's go through Cher. So at some juncture, Cher's probably had 2 facelifts. Okay.
You figure only 2?
Correct. Because she probably started in her late 50s.
When is a good age to have a facelift?
You start having your facelift when you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I hate this. So that usually occurs for most people, realistically, probably like 58, 59, 61, 62. Could it happen to you at 55? Maybe. Could you wait till you're 65? Maybe. But most people at their late 50s, early 60s get to a point where they can't tolerate the jowls anymore. Their neck skin is in excess. They don't see they feel young, but the person in the mirror isn't young. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Cher probably had her first facelift in her late 50s, early 60s. And whoever did her facelift did it in an extent not to hit it out of the park, but rather do it in a way where she was just slightly tightened and her neck skin was removed, but you didn't hit it out of the park, if that makes any sense, which ironically means you hit it out of the park. They didn't remove a ton of eyelid skin, but removed just enough to bring her back 5 years or 8 years. They lifted her brows just subtly. They may have added volume. You know me, I'm a rhinoplasty expert. Rhinoplasty is not about age, it's about balance. That's the one thing that's not an age-related thing. And all they did was make her nose a little more balanced. Didn't give her some little... Cher's got a big face, dark features. She's got some masculine appearance to her, which is attractive. And you have to have a large nose for that face. Had Cher done this little Mickey Mouse nose that is often done, she'd look immediately ridiculous. So when she did that in her late 50s and right around probably her late 60s, she probably needed a little tune-up. And what did she do? She went and did it yet again, whatever parts needed it, just a slight amount. And so the subtleties of the things she did allowed her to continuously look just fresh. And that is the key to your question. Should I get filler? I don't know. Everyone I know looks so weird. Yeah, sure, why not? You just need like half a syringe. I know everyone that gets Botox looks frozen. What the hell? No, that's not the case at all. Just put a little less. I put in Botox 1/2 the average amount. I gave it a name just for the hell of it. I call it micro Botox because people love names.
They do.
You know me and names like mini facelift.
Oh yeah.
Micro Botox. Oh my God, my doctor, he gives me
it's a thing.
Which means like I give you like half the dose. So it doesn't last as long. You need to do it more often, but you look the bomb all the time.
So less is really always more when it comes to doing any of these treatments.
You got it. But who determines that?
The doctor, because
chef.
you're the expert.
Goddamn chef. I keep bringing it back home. The guy who does it. So does it matter that if your chef has 60,000 followers on Instagram? Does it matter that your chef was endorsed by Bella Hadid? None of this matters. What matters is that your chef consistently and reproducibly has amazing results.
But do people sometimes come and they actually want that look being done?
Yes, they do.
And then do you say, I won't do that?
Whose fault is it that they do it? The chef. Again, you are a professional with integrity and you have responsibility. We are not Uber drivers. We are not Uber. You know what an Uber driver is? You get in the car and you say, I want to drive to X destination. Take me there, please. I don't ask questions. I don't care. I'm your driver. So if a patient comes in, as they do constantly, and say, hey, Dr. Urban, I want to do blah, 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 some of which is because they don't know any better, and some of which because they have a skewed sense of self from Instagram or wherever the hell, it is my responsibility, my job, to say no. Just like the girl who came in yesterday who wanted liposuction, and she brought me a picture, wanted the big booty thing, the whole shebang, literally yesterday. And I said, yes to the belly, yes to this, and hell no to this. And you know what she said? Okay, I see what you're saying. And of the people that come in and ask for something crazy, 90% of them can easily be walked off of the plank when you spend time with them. A small minority
Which brings me to
like
a question.
Truly like crazy. Yeah.
Which brings me to a question. I agree with you that the integrity of the doctor has a lot to do with it with Dr. Urban, but how do you think, and it's not a rhetorical question, when Priscilla Presley looks in the mirror, when these people that have had this stuff done look at themselves, do they really not see that it's not flattering? Like, what happens psychologically where you go in for the 18th syringe load of...
So what we're going to do is, that's a phenomenal question. Phenomenal. Because it really hits the driving point is what drives people. But we're going to save it for our segment on body dysmorphia.
Okay.
And the psychology and the driving force between all of us. Not just people who look weird, but what drives us to look in the mirror and say,
But celebrities have it worse, I
they
think.
do, and we'll talk about that. And I'll touch on it just briefly. It's the fact that it's a slow and gradual process, the same way that people stay in relationship with abusive husbands and abusive partners. And you're like, do they not know that there's like other, it's this gradual, slow kind of current that takes you go out to the ocean, and the next thing you know, you're like 2 miles offshore. How you didn't get hit by a wave, you just drifted. And we'll talk about that on that segment. So that's a great segue for the other one. So let's talk about the next celebrity that got it right.
Can I just ask you,
Go
is
ahead.
there any way back? So if Lisa Marie Presley comes to you, or Lil' Kim, is there anything you can do in a situation like that? If that comes to you, what would you do?
So it depends on what they've done. Luckily, some of the things that people are doing on the filling size, like I'll see patients every once in a while. You can tell by my personality. I'm pretty direct. So they'll come in and be like,
no holds back.
Right. They'll come in and be like, hi, Dr. Bon, how are you? I just don't like the way I look. And I'm here for like a brow lift. And I'll look at their face and they look literally like a blowfish. And they haven't mentioned it yet. And I'll say, well, the first thing we can do is let's talk about the fact that your face is way overfilled. Let's take the mirror and do you think this looks good? And then right at that moment, 9 out of 10 patients, when I hold them the mirror in front of them and I hold them accountable, say, no, not really. I don't really love the face stuff. So at that point, if it's filler related, I actually reverse it. I physically go get an enzyme out of the refrigerator and I start, and they're panic stricken. They're like, oh no, it's my face. Can I look that old way? I'm like, yeah, you mean like look normal? Yeah, we can get you back to normal.
So you can actually
And I
do
reverse the filler if the problem you had is overfilling. If the problem you had is too much fat put in your face, because we do that now, you're screwed. You own it. You're fat-faced. And by the way, if you gain weight, your face gets twice as fat as it normally would because the fat's from your stomach.
Oh my gosh.
If the issue is you remove too much skin from your eyelids, your brow, or your face, you're screwed. All the more reason why we're having this podcast. So much of what you've done is irreversible. And there's this philosophy that we have in today's public.
So the fat doesn't get absorbed, Dr. Raban? If
Some
you
of
have
it
fat
does,
put
but
in your...
no, listen, when you get fat transferred to your face, your butt, your breast, half of it survives and half of it dies. This half that stays is yours. You own it.
It stays.
And if you gain weight, it triples in size
Wow.
way faster. If you gain 100 pounds right
I've
now.
never heard this before.
There's tons and tons of people. If you gain weight, your face gains weight as your face gains weight. But when you get fat transfer and you gain weight, your face gains weight 3 times faster because it's fat from your belly.
Wow.
So the reason why we're in this generation of I'll do it, I'll deal with it later. Like, what are you going to do with all these tattoos all over your entire body?
Instant gratification.
It's cool. I don't mind, whatever. But when you're 68, I mean, you might outgrow it, but I'll just remove it. I'll laser it. Okay, well, maybe not. So we're having this dialogue because we've shifted from the generation of always worrying about the future and not living in the present to the present, never worrying about the future. So let's talk about the next candidate, which I think looks probably my favorite of all of them, is Jane Fonda.
Oh, love her.
Classy, classic beauty. I think it's not just a testament to her plastic surgeon. It has to do with this duality of her and her plastic surgeon, her needs, her wants. She was gorgeous before. She looks gorgeous today. Some will argue she looks even more beautiful, which is hard to imagine. And, Jane Fonda, I'm 77, right?
I think she's older than that now.
No, late. I think she might. No, that was in two. She's 80.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the reason is it goes back to that balance. She didn't age gracefully, which you can, nothing against it. You look beautiful. But she aged at her pace, wanted to look good, just like you put on makeup, just like you dye your grays, just like you fix your nails. And her plastic surgeon dialed it in just right. And she's probably also had 2 facelifts. And she did them at the right time. She did it at the right amount. She removed just enough to clean up what happened, but not go overboard. She filled her face in places where she's lost volume just enough to fill in where she was, and always looked graceful. It isn't, oh my God, but Jane Fonda, I mean, look at her. She's just
But
blessed.
look, as somebody who I have in my keepsake box, Jane Fonda leg warmers, she was an advocate of keeping everything intact. So a question, because celebrities frequently eat better than we do. They work out more than we do. They have their own trainers. Like, there's a whole connection there with her of like you say, wanting to match. Like she feels young. I'm sure she's still very physically fit. So she wanted her face to match her body. But how much does that play into if somebody has actually taken care of all of it, like a holistic approach?
Listen. At the end of the day, we've basically extracted this little conversation, but it doesn't. Listen, if you show up in my office and you're 78 and you're 183 pounds, 5'3".
I didn't want to
It's
sound
gonna-
catty,
no,
but
no,
there is
no.
a lot.
And you smoke 3 packs a day. You're diabetic and have hypertension, and you come in my office and you're 5'3". Not that weight in and of itself, but healthy and eat well. Of course, you're going to look better. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, the fact that we have this dialogue today is pretty sad because it
isn't a no-brainer. That's the problem. People look at pictures and think they can have the same result where she had a lifetime of getting to that point.
Of course, but
they think you can do it in an afternoon.
But what we're talking about today is not so much why is she a great candidate, but rather what did she do to maintain her candidacy.
Of course.
So yes, of course, as always, we can talk about people, what makes them great candidate. But today we're talking about, okay, you show up and you're a good candidate. You did your part.
Right.
Can you do it and look great, or can you do it and look freakish? And that's our goal, is how to dial it in. And the last one of our trio is Sharon Osbourne, who just recently said she's going in for her fourth facelift.
That's a lot, isn't it? For that,
It doesn't matter.
Age?
It's not a lot, because imagine it's not the number; it's the
Okay.
extent. You can do one facelift in your 60s and forever be ruined, and take off an inch of skin. I'm making it up. Or you can do 4 plastic surgeries and take a half of a centimeter every time and still end up looking greater than you did the one time. It's not what you do, is how much of it you do.
She looks fabulous.
She looks better
looks
now than
fantastic.
she used to.
Okay, because she and her surgeon, because remember, this is a collaborative effort, decided on a goal that was realistic and they hit it. So all the power to them. So shall we get to the honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Okay, so the honorable mentions are people who have done things that I think look good, but maybe not as good. One of them, of course, is the most famous person on the planet today, is Bella Hadid. Everybody's talking about Bella Hadid.
But she looks totally different than when she first came on the scene.
Okay, so if you look at her before and after, it's unarguable. She was definitely no supermodel, and she definitely was never going to be a brand
I think
ambassador.
her sister's prettier.
She was never going to be a brand ambassador before she had plastic surgery. So the question is, what did she do? And the things she's done for sure, she had a brow lift, which is like a brow lift. Well, you just said that so there's a brow lift for when you age, and there's a brow lift for when you're young, but I don't like the shape of my brow. So she didn't need a brow lift because she was 22 or something, whatever
But maybe
she was.
her brow was
But
low.
she had a little bit of a low-shaped brow. And now if you look at her, she looks at like ponytail, like we call it a ponytail look. And she had somebody named it ponytail brow lift. This is cockamamie names. But the bottom line is that she went and did surgically what people do with tattooing and pencil. She raised the arch of her brow, which it looks desirable. So she did that. And we could say that part of it looked good. Should she have done it at 22? She was young. I'm not going to get into the ethics of it. We're here to talk about looks good, doesn't look good.
Right.
The second thing she did is she did her nose. And in my humble opinion, and this is my wheelhouse. This is my favorite thing in the world. Her nose, while it looks more petite and it looks more refined, and every woman looks better, and man to a certain degree, it's overdone for me. And look at this. I'm going to show you her nose. Now look at her nose really critically. Don't look at her face and how beautiful her eyes are and her cheek structure.
It's very pretty.
Look at her nose, and what do you see?
No, this is the after.
This is her after. Look at her nose. Look at all the little points.
Yeah.
To me, as a nose specialist, her nose looks skeletonized. You can see every little aspect of it.
Yeah,
Now, mind you, she just had her nose done a few years ago. And so as she ages, her nose will classically
Smooth out.
No, we'll get 1,000 times worse.
Oh,
It'll get
really?
more and more dimpled and more collapsed and
cave?
more caved and more narrow. So I think the Bella Hadid honorable mention is perhaps some of the things she did have obviously made her gorgeous. But I think if you wait and watch carefully, I think at some point you'll see her nose, either she'll undergo a revision or she'll do filler, because I think her nose was overdone. Most of the photos of her, not paparazzi photos, are airbrushed. So when she's a brand ambassador for Lacoste or whatever, those are all airbrushed. But if you catch her in the right paparazzi photo, which can't, that is just her, you'll see her nose looks a little skeletonized. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I think she was a beautiful girl before. I think she's a beautiful girl now. It's very hard to
But it's
what do
a
you think
different
about her
beauty.
nose? We're just trying to be. We're here to be critical. We're not here to. Obviously, she's a fantastic human being. I'm not one way or the other. And it's not.
I see what you say, skeletonized, and that there was a fullness to her old nose. But I think also that fullness is sort of, for lack of a better term, childlike. It's youthful. I think when you do make it thinner and remove the fat or fullness to the nose, I think it's aging.
Well, we'll see. I mean, there's no question that, the filler she's put in her cheeks has aged her. She looks more mature.
Is it true that your nose keeps growing throughout your life?
Yeah, cartilage grows, ears grow, noses grow. If you look at, your pictures of your grandparents.
So despite even doing a nose job at such a young age, actually your nose could grow.
It's totally different. There's the natural nose, and then there's the done nose. The natural nose, if you don't touch your nose and do nothing to it, and you have a very pretty nose.
Thank you.
As time goes on, your nose will change and grow a little bit. If you touch your nose and operate on it, all bets are off. Your nose tends to get more and more narrow and collapse because the scar tissue in your nose never ends. And you'll go, if you look at IMDb, because when patients come in for rhinoplasty, I take them through the journey of celebrities because we have it here. Before they had their nose jobs, right after their nose jobs, and 10 to 15 years down the line in their careers. And you're like, oh my God, why does her nose look like that? It's because you don't pay attention because they're celebrities and you just see Photoshop photos of them all the time. So the idea isn't that your nose doesn't look better, a little narrower or a little more refined. The question is to what extent. The other honorable mention was
Kylie Kardashian.
Kylie. So here's the whole lip phenomena. Kylie Kardashian, if you look at her photos.
So what did she do? I never understand. What did she do with the lips? And then she took them out. And then
So
she put
it's
them back
hers
in?
is very easy. She is a classic young girl who was not blessed with full lips. Okay. So for example, my wife's been everywhere she goes, people think she had her lips done. She just has really big lips. Mm-hmm. So now you born with kind of really average lips, fine, or even maybe narrower lips, and you just go get filler in your lip. And you do it, if you do it correctly and you do it incrementally, your lips tend to grow and get a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. And then if you maintain that filler over time, you then, if you look at her before and after of her lips made a huge, and she had her nose done. Her lips.
She looks very different.
No, and she looks beautiful and good. The issue is that for discussion, so her lips aren't hers. The filler worked in her instance, and then she made $1 billion off of lip kits.
Wait, so is that literally just filler? Because I don't know, there were all these rumors that she actually had something like implanted in them.
So let's just lip enhancement. What are the ways to do it?
Yeah.
You can fill it with filler, easiest, quickest, most benign way. And if it's done correctly, right back to what we said, incrementally and in decent proportions, it can look great.
Yeah.
You can add fat, which I think in the world now that we have filler, why would you add fat? Because what if you don't like the fat? What if it's lumpy? It's never going away. You can add things that people did in the past, which is silicone and crap like that. And that's Renee. No, what was the girl?
Lisa Rinna. Didn't
Lisa
she have,
Rinna, which will be our
Cortex or
last
something?
one.
Yeah.
Which is you can add it and it'll destroy your lips. Never do that. Or you can get this new thing called the lip lift, which is this idea where you actually cut the upper part of your lip where it connects to your nose and rotate your lip out. And there's a whole controversy as to whether or not that's a good idea or not. But thousands of young girls are doing that. It was really designed for older women because your lips start to get low and long.
Do you do that?
I don't. I only do it in. If you come into me as a young girl and you're 26 and you want fuller lips and you want a lip lift, I'm not going to do it. But that's a matter of my own personal opinion. There are lots of surgeons that do. If you're a 63-year-old woman and your lip has gotten much longer and it's kind of sagging, I'll do it. Because whereas filler is reversible, the lip lift really changes the dynamics of your animation. So people who have had the lip lift, when they talk and smile, and you can see hundreds of videos online, they just don't look normal. Whether that you like that look or not, I don't know. So in her instance, she did her nose, she did some cheek filler, and she did her lips. And the thing that's interesting is she made $1 billion off her lips.
Oh.
And then reversed it and was kind of like, I don't believe in, in whatever. So that's a matter
There's
of
a whole controversy about Beyonce doing hair products when it's not her hair.
I don't have a problem with anyone doing anything so long as they're transparent. That's my pet peeve in the world. I embrace it all. I'm a plastic surgeon, for God's sakes. I love transformations. I love making you look better. I don't care. I don't have a problem with that. And patients have constantly asked me, like, I don't know how to tell this. My friends, what if they ask? I'm like, what if they ask? Tell them, hell yeah. I did my ear pinning. I'm excited. Don't like own it and be proud of it.
So you don't think that her look was a result of using her own product is what we're getting down to?
The lip kit?
Yeah. It's
No,
not
the lip
possible
kit
to
is
get
No. Listen, you cannot change your lips using a lip kit. You can use liner to make it bigger. You can use different products. You can put that. There's all kinds of stuff like that have peppermint in them that kind of make your lips plump for the evening. Like you just like had a lot of chili pepper.
I've got one of those in my handbag right now. I want to just know, who is the number one celebrity person people bring in and ask you day after day, that is who I want to look like?
For what body part? Right? right.
Let's do face, because we're on the matter of face.
Face, Kim K. I got a lot of Kim K's. I think and by the way, I don't necessarily know that this is because they're the most beautiful, like they are the beauty icon. I think they're the most seen. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that if you as a person who knows celebrity presence, it's who's got the best PR and who has the best exposure. Mm-hmm. And Kim K is unarguably the queen of exposure, good, bad, or ugly. And so Kim K comes in all the time for noses. And I do agree. I think her face and her nose are very beautiful. Mm-hmm. No one will take that away from her. So noses, I get a lot of Kim K. Unfortunately for bodies, we get a lot of Kim K's. People aren't coming in saying, I want to be skinny. People are coming in saying, I want to be curvy.
So has Kim K kind of changed your whole business model now? People are really coming in like for butt things that they were never coming in for before. Maybe it was, boobs back in a different area, but
Correct.
Now...
It was Pamela Anderson who changed the dial for breast on Baywatch. Mm-hmm. There was this notion that, oh my God, big 90s California breasts were in, which have shifted
now
greatly.
Big California butts.
Correct. And so, of course, there is always going to be icons. And this isn't new to our generation. It's new, not new. Mona Lisa had her contribution. I'm saying Cleopatra all the time had her contribution. There's always Marilyn Monroe. There's beauty icons that do it, and just happens to be whoever's the most seen is the one that people will follow, right? Kim K happened to do it with her, with her butt and all that stuff, and that's the current thing. And then there's Little Kim and
well, even Joan from Mad Men for a while. I read when Mad Men was the rage, everybody was going for the big.
I think that, for example, Angelina Jolie was for a period of time, maybe a generation prior, a beauty icon. Still is gorgeous and beautiful. I think that she's blessed, and I think with the exception of her nose, the rest of her I do believe is mostly hers. I mean, you never know.
But she had those lips as a child. If you see old pictures, and her dad had those lips in Midnight Cowboy.
No, and if you look, I mean, she's just beautiful.
She's gorgeous.
And I think if you notice, she's maintained that beauty in her own way. Does she Botox? Does she do some filler? That's like, does she color her roots? Does she get nails done? That's not an issue. But overall, she's maintained it, and she's been able to hold on to that image. But she's also not in the Instagram. She's a class above that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think this is why we're in this discussion.
I think it's interesting you should say that, and we'll wrap it up. There's so much to say on this. When you said Angelina's a class above this, it's not just generational. Let's talk about sort of A-listers versus sort of this B set, because young girls, 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, are not influenced by the beauty of Julianne Moore, Angelina Jolie, Kate Winslet, you and I were talking about on the way over.
Natural beauty.
They're influenced by the Instagrammer people, by what I would call the B team. And even though their presence isn't, as you would say, they're not Oscar-winning top tier, they are the ones that the kids are completely enamored of.
100%.
Yeah, you have to look at the front covers of magazines now. It's no longer actresses. It's
I don't even know half of them.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why there has to be a counterbalance, a counter dialogue, someone who is helping patrol and be a whistleblower. Because you see, what happened is before, beauty was funneled through more controlled channels.
Instagram is the Wild West.
Instagram, and the fact that every single person has their own platform and can manipulate their images in any way they want and get to the consumer and bypass producers, editors, photographers. So
and it's not regulated.
You don't have any checkpoints, and no one can stop you, and no one can say otherwise. And the fact is, between between the influencer and your 16-year-old child, there is nothing in between that airspace.
No.
And so before there was the editor of the magazine, there was the photographer, there was the model, there was the model's agent.
Highly regulated gatekeepers.
So now it's just a girl sitting in her house with a camera who wants to be an influencer, who wants to collect on, thousands of followers. And this poor 16-year-old girl who's on her phone, because that's what is now the norm. And there's this connection that occurs that is destroying and eroding the minds of these children.
Yeah, it's creating.
And no one cares that Angelina Jolie is gorgeous and classy and is like she's a poster child for UNICEF. Like, no one gives a shit, because my niece who's 16 doesn't see that person. And so we get together, not just to talk because it's interesting, but to create the dialogue. And at the end of the day, maybe those 16-year-old people are or aren't listening to this podcast, but certainly the people who love them are.
Right.
So their sisters,
the people that are driving them to the doctors,
and their parents and their.
So what would you say? You would say wait, like to someone that was.
No, I don't think it's the waiting. I do rhinoplasties on 60. I did my niece's rhinoplasty at 17. She's mature. She's well adjusted. She's grounded. She's an amazing young girl in college. She's kicking ass. It's not an age thing. It's a mind. It's a balance. It's a dialogue. It isn't plastic surgery is evil. It's bad. It's good. We don't have discussions. We're not invested in each other. And what has happened is the channels, we used to go A to B to C to D to E. Now we're going A to E. And in that A to E dialogue, everyone is being bypassed. So that girl who is in wherever, who is in Vegas or in whatever, is doing her photos every day, who's manipulating either via clothing or makeup or Facetune, is reaching out to hundreds and thousands of influential young girls and guys. And we're creating this morphed sense of self, which is creating an incredible amount of anxiety, depression, drug addiction. Because the truth of the matter is, when you're 16, all you want to do is be liked, be fit in, and be desired. Mm-hmm. And your only measure is what's currently popular. The music, the culture, so that's the problem. And so you are disconnected as the loved ones from this person. You think you're having dialogues with them, but you and I both know that when you're on your vacation, your sister or your cousin is looking at their phone and their brain is being morphed. And you spend 10 minutes, an hour with them, and then the rest of the time they're just in that world.
My nieces are easily influenced. I have 5 social media platforms. They have no idea I spy on them. They think I'm a light-skinned brother with blue eyes from Oakland.
So anyways, we're so happy that you came.
Yay,
Thank you
Marissa.
for having me.
Yeah, and I hope that we're going to just keep doing our part here.
And where can our listeners find you, Marissa?
On my Instagram at Marissa Montgomery.
Yeah, you have a bunch of followers. You're one of those people that, and you're fighting the good fight because you're normal.
Oh, I don't know how normal I am.
You haven't had anything.
It's fascinating.
You're normally you're abnormally normal.
Yeah.
Abnormal is nothing other than just being human, but it's within the scope of reasonableness. We're always talking about fringes. We're never talking about absolutes. So we were very happy to have you today.
Thank you. And thank you guys. Thanks for joining us. And honestly, if there's something, we loved reading the letters at the top, something you want us to talk about, a question you want to ask, please do that. You have listened to a fabulous segment, I'm going to say that because you were on it, of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Thank you for joining us.